Well, hello there. Good morning. Thank you guys so much for joining with me today as we are talking about God and Science Part 4 here on the Revival Center live stream Influence channel. If you have not liked this video, go ahead and like it. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube page, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you can stay current with all of our content that we put out on the on YouTube here. And also, if you are watching this live stream, jump on the chat session there. We have guys manning the chat, and so we would love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments, please make them known. Well, again, we would love to have that interaction with you. Today, we're continuing the conversation that we've been talking about for the last 3 weeks, talking about God and science. How does the Bible and how does science work together? We have been showing many videos on these on this channel, on this particular teaching series, and bringing in outside interviews and outside discussions, which has been fascinating for me. I really enjoy this kind of content as it really builds my faith up. That when you challenge the Bible or you challenge my faith with science, and then the Bible is able to prove itself, it really encourages me, and I hope it encourages you. And today is going to be no different. So today we're going to get outside of our earth. We're going to get out into the universe. We're going to get out into the stars in this particular teaching. We're going to talk about how many stars there are. We're going to talk about the Milky Way galaxy and things such as this. And as we begin this teaching, we're going to start in Jeremiah 33 verse 22. If you want to go ahead and turn there, or pull that up on the computer. I'm going to read it in a second. But as we begin to read this and do this teaching, remember that in Genesis 1, when God created time, matter, and space, God exists outside of that, and He is able to reveal Himself in the Bible and speak about the things in which He has created. And so whenever He said, "Let there be," I believe whenever He said, "Let there be," it sent an echo, a shock wave throughout what we understand as the universe. And so when you begin to study the universe, you begin to find that it's ever expanding, which is why even the atheists believe in what they call the Big Bang Theory, is because when you rewind the clock or rewind the video, the universe comes right back together because it's ever expanding. Now, for the believer who believes in God and believes in the Bible, we understand that is when God said, "Let there be." And so let there be. It's an echo sent throughout the universe that is always expanding and creating, because God's Word has a creative nature to it. So let's look at it. Jeremiah 33 verse 22. Now you remember when Jeremiah wrote this was around 6th or 7th BC. Okay, so think about that. How many thousands of years ago the prophet Jeremiah wrote this. He says, "I will make the descendants of David my servant and the Levites who minister before me as countless as the stars in the sky and as measureless as the sand on the seashore." Now the reason I wanted to go here as we start this teaching today is at the time that Jeremiah lived, there were star charts. Listen to me. There were star charts. And the astrologers of that day believed that you could number the stars in the sky. The reason I want to bring that up is because the scientists of his day would disagree with the prophet Jeremiah. The same way that the scientists of our day would disagree with us who believe in the Bible. So the astrologers of this day believed that you could count the stars. And Jeremiah, under the inspiration of the Creator, said, "No, you cannot count the stars. They are limitless." But they had charts that estimated there were about 6,000 stars. So as they would hear this prophet of God say that the stars are countless, innumerable, you cannot count all of the stars, they would say, "Yes, you can. Here's a chart that proves there's 6,000 stars and you can count them." But yet here is Jeremiah saying no to the experts of his day. Just like we have experts of our day saying that no, back then you cannot number those stars, but the 20th century has proven indeed that the stars cannot be numbered. So this first video is going to prove the fact that you cannot count the stars in space. So enjoy this video here, and I will see you in just a second.
You'll never, ever get your head around how big the universe is. Don't go there, it's just vast, it's enormous. There's no way a human mind, I think, can actually comprehend the true immensity of the universe. We're happy with the size of an elephant, or the size of a tree, or maybe even the size of Durham Cathedral. But I think if we go beyond that, then our brains just start to run out of gas.
It may be difficult for our brains to comprehend, but that hasn't stopped astronomers endeavouring to measure the distance to the stars. One technique is to use a phenomenon called parallax.
Everybody can actually experience parallax for themselves. If you hold your thumb up and close one eye, you can see that your thumb appears to be in a certain position relative to something behind your thumb. But then if you open that eye and close the other eye, you'll see your thumb appears to move relative to the object behind.
The same thing happens when we look at the stars. When we look at a relatively nearby star from the Earth, it appears in a certain position relative to the other background stars. 6 months later, when the Earth is on the opposite side of the Sun, the same star will appear in a different position relative to the background. Like opening and closing one eye then the other, the star appears to move, and by measuring this apparent movement, we can calculate the true position of the star. An alternative method of measurement is to use certain stars in the sky known as standard candles. We know exactly how brightly they shine. If we can therefore measure how bright they appear to us on Earth, we can calculate how far away they are. The dimmer they appear, the further they are from the Earth.
So the nearest star to the Sun is Proxima Centauri, and that, it turns out, is 40 trillion kilometers away. That's 40 million kilometers away from the Earth.
Such numbers start to become incomprehensible, and that's why astronomers have adopted an alternative unit of measurement for such vast distances, the light year.
A light year is the distance that light will travel in 1 year. If you imagine light moving around the Earth in 1 second, so in that time, light would travel around the Earth over 7 times. So that's fast. The speed of light is 300,000 kilometers a second.
So 1 light year is about 9 million kilometers. The speed of light also leads to a curious consequence when we stare at the stars.
So the light from the Sun takes 8 minutes to get to the Earth. That essentially means we're looking into the past. We're looking back at the Sun as it was 8 minutes ago. So if the Sun was to disappear right now, we wouldn't know for 8 minutes. So a telescope, if you like, is a time machine. We're looking back in time, and the further the object is away from us, the further back in time we're seeing it.
Our Sun, like nearly all the stars we can see with the naked eye, sits inside the galaxy we call the Milky Way. But our galaxy is not alone in the universe.
Not everything you can see in the night sky is actually in our galaxy. It turns out that some of those faint dots are in fact other galaxies. The furthest object you can see actually with the unaided eye is another galaxy called Andromeda. The light from that galaxy has taken something like 2.25 million years to get to the Earth. So if you imagine if we reverse the scenario and you're looking at the Earth from Andromeda with a very powerful telescope, you'd see no signs of cities, no civilization, no Great Wall of China. You might be lucky enough to see 1 or 2 sort of early humans hunting around on the African plains for their dinner, maybe.
Astronomers have always wanted to see further, using bigger and better telescopes to try and find out just how many other galaxies are out there. Until finally, we pointed the Hubble telescope at what at first appeared to be a very dark and ordinary patch of the night sky.
If you imagine holding up your finger with a grain of sand on it and looking at the patch of sky that grain of sand blocks out, that's the field that the telescope zoomed in onto. and what the telescope saw was incredible.
Every single speck of light in this photo is a galaxy. 10,000 galaxies in a patch of sky the size of a grain of sand held at arm's length. If this tiny patch of sky is like every other, then we can calculate how many galaxies are out there.
The visible universe contains around 100 billion galaxies. Each one of those galaxies contains around about 100 billion stars. That means the visible universe contains something like 10,000 million stars. That means there are more stars in the visible universe than there are grains of sand on the Earth.
The light from some of these most distant galaxies has taken around 13 billion years to get here. That's light travelling at 300,000 kilometres a second. The visible universe stretches around 13 billion light years from the Earth.
So we've said the universe is big. I'm going to try and give you some idea how big. Imagine the Earth as a grain of sand. If that was the case, then our solar system out to the orbit of the planet Neptune would be as big as Durham Cathedral. So now let's imagine we take our solar system and we shrink it down to the size of this grain of sand. Then our galaxy, the Milky Way, would be 1,000 times bigger than this cathedral. So now we take the Milky Way galaxy and shrink it down to the size of the grain of sand. The cathedral would be the entire visible universe. The universe is big. It's really big.
So it was the prophet Jeremiah, it was the other prophets of the Old Testament that said, you cannot count the stars. At the time, the experts of the day said, yes, you can count the stars. Here's a chart, we've already counted them. And like the video just proved, you cannot count the stars. 50 to 100 billion galaxies are all throughout our universe. And each one galaxy contains perhaps as many as 50 to 100 billion stars. If you were to spend all of your life from the second you are born until you die, counting 10 stars per second, you would not even equal a percentage in counting, a percent of counting all of the stars. So put all of that together and you begin to understand that the one who created the stars, the one who created the universe, told us in His Word at a time when you could not have proven that Jeremiah knew this because he was not getting his information from the experts in the universities because they were not teaching this, then it proves to us that the God of the Bible is also the one who created everything that we see. Now, before I show you this picture, I want to tell you about this picture because it's fascinating to me. But in January 1996, JPL released a photograph. Let me explain it. This deep field Hubble view picture that you're about to see, it was each fuzzy object that they saw in this photograph represented a galaxy. This galaxy is 15 billion light years away, each one of them, even further, but the first couple ones that you see. And the way they got the picture is they said, what is this dark little spot, this little peck, this little period, small little size of a sand up in the sky? We don't know. Let's point this massive telescope in that little bitty area right there and take a picture of it. So they did it. They did that. And when they took the picture, this is what they saw. Let's put that picture up there. So this picture that you're looking at on the screen right now was the size of sand. Was the size of one grain of sand up in the sky. And then when they took the picture and began to analyze it, they were astonished at what they saw. Because what they saw in this small little corner of the universe were all of these galaxies that were represented. Now remember, these galaxies that you're seeing in this small little picture are massive. They're huge. They're the size of our Milky Way galaxy and even bigger. and they were all grouped together in this one little spot way out in the far corners of the galaxy, proven of how vast this universe is and how you cannot count the stars, friend. You don't even understand how large this thing is. You can take that picture down. And so this begins to teach us here. In Psalms 19, verse number 6, it says this: "It rises at one end of the heavens and makes its circuit to another. Nothing is deprived of its warmth." That is referring to the sun. Now, skeptics used to point to this verse to disprove the Bible as a scientific book. They felt like there was an error written in Psalms 19:6. This idea that the sun rises or that the sun moves. But that is the common wording that even astrophysicists use today to describe the sun. In fact, the astrophysicists talk about sunrise and the sunset all the time. Every night on the nightly news, you can find when the sun will rise and when the sun will set, because it is common wording. But note that the psalmist says this, that the sun follows a circuit. Very important wording there in the Bible. Within the last 150 years, we have discovered that the sun is a star that exists in the Milky Way galaxy. A galaxy that looks a lot like a giant spiral galaxy, almost like a hurricane in a way, if I could describe it like that. And the sun actually follows a circuit. Can you believe that? Yes, you can, because you read the Bible and believe what it says. But the sun actually follows a circuit, as in the Milky Way galaxy spins around a giant massive black hole in the center of the Milky Way galaxy. Our planets are on one small arm of the Milky Way galaxy, and we are spinning around in space. So the sun makes a circle, not around the Earth, but around the Milky Way galaxy. So I want you to think about this. Our journey, one journey of our solar system around the center of the Milky Way galaxy is called a cosmic year. That's approximately 225 or 250 million years. So it takes approximately 250 million years for us, our solar system, to make one giant circuit around the center of the Milky Way galaxy. So put that in perspective. That's fascinating to say the least. And before we play this next video about the Milky Way galaxy, I want to say this too about the light years away, and how you see light coming back to you up in heaven. It's an important little, fun little fact right here. So when you walk outside and you see the sun, what you are seeing and what you are feeling is about 8 minutes ago. It's times past. So if the sun was to stop shining, it would take like 8 minutes for us to see that the sun has stopped shining, even though it was no longer shining, because that's how far the sun is, and it takes that long for that light to get to us. So to put that in perspective, if you were on one of these far out galaxies, and let's just say you could look back to Earth, and you could look down on the planet Earth, you would not be seeing what we are right now, because it would take so long for the Earth to reflect back. So they would probably be seeing dinosaurs right now looking at Earth, because that's how far it takes for it to project. So this is fascinating to me when it comes to physics and astrophysics and in space and time and how long it takes for things to travel. But the reason I want to show you this next video is because the psalmist said that the circuit, that the sun is on a circuit. People would dismiss that, but it actually is true. The sun is on a circuit. We all are on an arm of the Milky Way galaxy. Check this video out.
We've learned about how stars and galaxies form, and there are hundreds of billions of galaxies in the observable universe, each with many millions or billions of individual stars. So which galaxy is our home? Let's take a look at this collection of galaxies. This is called the Virgo supercluster, containing over 100 smaller groups and clusters of galaxies, such as the Virgo cluster and the local group. Now let's zoom in on the local group. This contains more than 50 galaxies, many of which are tiny dwarf galaxies, but some of which are fairly large by galactic standards. The largest of these is called the Andromeda galaxy, which is a spiral galaxy. Around half that size, the next biggest is called the Milky Way galaxy, also a spiral galaxy, and that's our home. It's a pretty typical barred spiral galaxy, containing somewhere between 200 billion and 400 billion stars. It is about 100,000 light years in diameter, meaning it takes light 100,000 years to travel from one edge to the other, whereas it is only about 1,000 light years thick. These are estimates, as there are no well-defined edges to the galaxy. It is simply a disk with several arms of varying sizes, surrounded by a halo of stars, with a dense bulge in the middle, most likely harboring a supermassive black hole at the center of its nucleus, just like other large galaxies. About 15% of the visible mass of the Milky Way is in the form of interstellar gas and dust, scattered between all the stars. Some of these stars form groupings called open clusters, such as the Pleiades, which is a few hundred stars bound fairly close together. Beyond the stars in the disk, there are also several objects in more distant orbits called globular clusters. These are dense spherical collections of stars, anywhere from a few 100,000 to a few million, and there are a little more than 150 of them traveling around the halo. These are always filled with population 2 stars, indicating that they are very old, probably forming at the same time as the Milky Way. The Milky Way also has some satellite galaxies, which are smaller galaxies that orbit around it. The most prominent of these are the Small Magellanic Cloud and Large Magellanic Cloud, each around 1/10 the size of the Milky Way and observable from the southern hemisphere. These interact with the Milky Way as they orbit, resulting in disturbances and also exchange of material. Andromeda and the Milky Way are also on paths that will cause them to collide sometime around 4 billion years from now. Simulations show that this will be an incredible event that will take several billion years to play out to completion. Many stars will be ejected, but the end result will likely be a merging to form a larger, more elliptical galaxy that has been dubbed Milkdromeda. So what do we know about the formation of the Milky Way? Well, its rotation provides some information. Stars outside of the bulge move around galactic center with a speed of around 220 kilometers per second. That's astonishingly fast by earthly standards, but even so, it takes stars in the outer areas about 250 million years to go once around. The closer stars are to the center, the less time they take to orbit, just like planets around their sun. In fact, this is the phenomenon that is largely responsible for the formation of the spiral arms in the first place. This is all typical among spiral galaxies, as we can observe by looking at other galaxies in our...
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that video as well, as I'm trying to prove to you that scriptures in the Bible, then whenever it's overlaid with actual scientific discoveries, it actually proves the Bible, God and science. Today's going to be a short one. We're going to close it up here, and we're going to pick it back up next week or the week after, God and Science Part 5. I hope that you're enjoying this journey. I hope you're learning some things, but really I hope that it is building your faith, that the God that we serve, that the God who inspired the Bible is in fact truly who He says He is. It builds my faith up as well. So listen, God bless you. Thank you so much for joining us on Part 4. Like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next week, Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. God bless you.